From the film, having a completely different cast to the leads spending months training for their roles, here are the Matrix facts that fans didn't know. The fact that the entire cast that you see in the film almost didn't happen, for instance, has got to be the most surprising. Yes, you've heard that right. Without a doubt, Warner Brothers had a big say in who would be joining the Matrix crew, but you bet the Wachowskis had their own opinions too. In a 2012 interview, the series composer Don Davis spilled the beans on the extensive casting process. He revealed that they considered just about every handsome actor in Hollywood at that time. Believe it or not, Keanu Reeves wasn't the first choice for the iconic role of Neo. In fact, it was almost Johnny Depp who would have been dodging bullets and bending reality. But wait, it gets even juicier. The thing is that the studio also had their hearts set on Brad Pitt, but he straight up refused to wear those iconic shades. Besides him, Val Kilmer and the one and only Will Smith were also considered for the roles. Later, they turned it down. Eventually, it came down to a showdown between Johnny Depp and Keanu Reeves, with Warner Bros. Having a preference for Reeves, and thank goodness they did, because I can't imagine anyone playing the role better than him. I mean, he nailed it. But wait, the fun doesn't stop there. For the role of Morpheus, the directors considered big names like Samuel L. Jackson and Gary Oldman. But guess who the studio had in mind? Yeah, the legendary James Bond himself, Sean Connery. Turns out Connery decided to pass on the opportunity, and that's when Lawrence Fishburne jumped in and rocked our screens. Alright, now that you've seen how the cast came together, let's find out why they switched the filming location to Australia. With a budget of $60 million, the Wachowskis knew they had to get creative to make this epic sci-fi action flick without breaking the bank. So they made the bold move and set their sights on Australia. Sydney, to be exact. I know you might be wondering why they picked Sydney. Well, besides its stunning landscapes, the city offered a winning combination of filmmaking expertise, competitive costs, and a super cooperative spirit. So it was a perfect match. Plus, Sydney's diverse architectural style rightly fits the bill for creating that enigmatic city within the Matrix where all the action goes down. And get this, Warner Brothers estimated that filming in the USA would cost them $95 million at the time. But by choosing Sydney as their base, the Wachowskis worked their magic and brought the production cost down to just $60 million. Oh boy, that's some serious savings. And guess what? The gamble paid off big time, as The Matrix turned out to be a huge hit at the international box office and raked in over $463 million. Now let's talk about the sets. They built a total of 30 of them, with some seriously futuristic ones for places like Morpheus's ship, the Nebuchadnezzar. But the largest set was for a more ordinary location, the government office building where the insane second act shootout went down. It was so massive that it took up a whole city block and even had a translight backdrop that was 4 stories high and half the length of a football field. Speaking of the sets, you'd be surprised to find out that The Matrix shares them with a strangely similar film. When the film started its production at Fox Studios in Sydney, guess who had just wrapped filming there? Yep, it was none other than Dark City, a 1998 film that's similar in themes and visual design to The Matrix. But hold up, the crew didn't exactly copy anything from Dark City. You see, some of the Dark City sets were recycled and put to good use in The Matrix. Remember the intense rooftop scene where Trinity makes her daring escape from those cruel agents? Well, those very rooftops were borrowed from Dark City's sets. Isn't it cool, right? What's more, the great movie critic, Roger Ebert, was one of the first to notice the uncanny similarities between these two mind-blowing flicks. While he did give The Matrix a thumbs up, he couldn't help but point out the resemblances and even suggest that The Matrix may have taken a bit of inspiration from Dark City. But hey, let's cut the Wachowskis some slack, because their script for The Matrix was already completed long before Dark City hit the screen in 1998. Despite this debate, Ebert went on to praise Dark City as one of the greatest films of its time, and even went as far as saying that it achieved what The Matrix aimed to do with a smaller budget. Moving on, The Matrix not only revolutionized filmmaking, but also blew everyone's mind with a groundbreaking photography technique for bullet time. Now, before you say that you've already seen the effects in other films, trust me when I say that back in 1999, it was like nothing anyone had ever witnessed before. Basically, bullet time is all about capturing shots in extreme slow motion, resulting in a jaw-dropping ability to follow bullets with your eyes while the camera smoothly revolves at a normal speed. Obviously, it was magical when people saw it for the first time. So how did they pull off this mind-blowing visual effect? Well, effects supervisor Gaeta and the innovative director Michel Gondry, who drew inspiration from the Japanese film Akira, were the two geniuses behind this revolutionary technique. But here's the catch. The technique used in The Matrix brought a whole new twist because it involved moving around objects that were already in motion. Talk about taking things to the next level. Now, to create these amazing effects, they created a special set entirely covered in green screen. On that set, they placed an array of 120 still cameras and 2 motion cameras in a circular pattern. With that said, every bullet time sequence was a carefully choreographed dance between digital simulations and camera programming. The precision and timing were crucial to creating that slow motion illusion that everyone loved. Now here's the interesting part. Because bullet time was so iconic and influential, you bet everyone wanted to copy it. But you know what? The term bullet time is a registered trademark of Warner Brothers. So all those rip-offs and homages had to come up with their fancy names for the effect. Now, you might have heard a popular legend floating around about how the Wachowskis spent their entire initial budget just to film that incredible opening scene. To be honest, this isn't entirely true. In fact, it turned out to be more fiction than fact, but hold on because there's still a fascinating truth behind it. In the beginning, the Wachowskis weren't quite established in the film scene. They only had one film to their name, Bound. So you can imagine that Warner Brothers had to be pretty cautious about handing over the cash. Now, to ease the studio tension and gain their trust, the Wachowskis decided to work their magic on Trinity's incredible introductory action sequences. They wanted to show their vision and what they were achieving in the film. So they polished up that scene to perfection and sent it straight to Warner Brothers as a sneak peek of their genius in the making. Of course, it was a clever move because that action-packed sequence blew the studio away. In fact, the studio was so impressed by the Wachowskis' talent and vision that they became confident in backing that project. The rest, as they say, is history. To be honest, the film wouldn't have been such a masterpiece if it weren't for the incredible performances of the cast. They truly gave their best, so much so that they spent months training for their respective roles. I mean, Keanu Reeves, Carrie-Anne Moss, Lawrence Fishburne, and Hugo Weaving weren't exactly martial arts experts. No surprise, they had to go through an intense training regimen. Starting way back in October 1997, they trained restlessly through March 1998. And following the film's release, Lawrence Fishburne vividly recalled that the training was an everyday affair with no breaks or excuses. Now, it wasn't just a few weeks of martial arts training either. It turns out that the cast had months and months of grueling training in every aspect. Hugo Weaving admits that he initially thought it'd be a quick crash course, but boy was he wrong. They were in for the long haul. Well, the legendary martial artist Yuen Woo-ping was handed the task of transforming these newbies into seasoned martial artists. And it wasn't a smooth ride either, with Reeves and Weaving suffering serious injuries along the way. But you bet nothing could stop them from achieving greatness. Not only did they master Kung Fu, but they also got a crash course in Hong Kong-style wire work. You know, those jaw-dropping wire-assisted stunts that made these heroes leap and flip like superheroes? Yeah, they learned that too. So there you have it. From the leads spending months training for their roles to the film almost having a completely different cast, these were the Matrix facts that fans didn't know.